family. Thank you so much for joining this evening. We are so excited, and I say we because my sister Evelyn Bautista and I are going to have a candid conversation where she's going to talk with me about my doctoral journey. And I was inspired this evening because so many people reached out to me, so much support from yesterday to this morning that my heart was so full. If anyone has ever been on a doctoral, any educational endeavor, be it a certificate, a graduate program, an undergraduate program, you know that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication. And Evelyn and I were talking, and she said, Cindy, you spend so much time getting to know and connecting and asking questions of others. Wouldn't it be amazing if you talked a little bit about your journey to the PhD? And so Evelyn is going to ask me some questions, and we're really excited. I am sitting here waiting for my celebratory dinner that's being made by Chef Winston Thomas Jr. I posted it on my stories. If you're not following In the Zone Catering, please follow him. He's showing me the lobster right now. Lobster, asparagus, mashed potatoes.
So wait a minute. Are we holding you up, Cindy?
No. It's still in the making. So that's why I could do this, because it's still being worked out. And for Christmas, Winston bought me this wonderful mug that says Doctora Cindy Bautista-Thomas with the Dominican flag. So we're representing, and with the cute picture of me here from the, check it out. Yes. So let's get right into it. Thank you all for showing up. Yes, lobster. Lobster is my favorite. My wonderful mother-in-law gave me an amazing gift today. I needed a brand new computer because my computer was dying. And didn't we take ourselves to Times Square and get a brand new Mac Air for Dr. Bautista-Thomas? And I know I'm blessed and humbled because I know that she loves me so much and I love her so much, even though she be talking during my lives, Miss Glory. But that's what God does. God just shows up. And the necklace. I got a necklace in the mail from a dear friend. So let's go ahead. Evelyn, it's on you. I'm just a participant today.
I mean, first of all,
oh my God, you see this? Okay.
With so much that's going on, it's always so special to have those moments that we celebrate each other. And that's one of the most important pieces that I need to share for everyone that's joining us. And last minute, Cindy, you always bring the crowd. But I was telling my kids that I told them you got to get off Wi-Fi. I got to interview your Titi. She got her PhD, and we're so proud of you. And your goddaughter, Angelica, has 2 questions.
Oh, so yes.
She has 2 questions. So what Angelica wants to know is, how do you benefit from getting a PhD?
Wow, that's an amazing question. So,
and this from a 12-year-old, 11-year-old.
My God, who's very, very special. I love her. So getting a PhD is an individual decision based on your values, your personal career trajectory and goals and intentions. So the reason why I wanted to get a PhD is because I was interested in, one, being a representative. I identify as a Black Latinx from Dominican American descent. And I know that there are very few doctoral Black Latinx social workers in academia. And so I knew that I wanted to get a PhD when I was doing my master's. I just wasn't sure when I would do it and what discipline I would do it in. But in this particular time, the way the PhD is benefiting me is that I am going into a full-time faculty position that you can only get if you have a PhD. And my intention is to eventually do a lot of writing, journals, book writing about the research that I've done in my dissertation and expanding on that research. So I'm interested in doing that. And so a PhD will open up those particular doors. And so not everyone needs to get a PhD. It really depends on what you're looking to do with it. I know for a fact, and I do a lot of work. I have my own business. I'm a social worker, and I feel like I'm successful in life. I didn't need to get a PhD, but I know that representation matters. And I'm interested in disrupting systems of inequity and oppression. And I'm going to do that in many different ways. And so that's one of the ways that I'm doing it. And thank you all for the accolades. I love the comments. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, family.
Doctora Bautista-Thomas. The other question Angelica has is, what was the actual work that you had to do to buckle yourself down to actually do it, amongst everything else that's going on in your world?
I mean, this is a 12-year-old asking this question. That's an excellent question. So in 2013 was when I got accepted into the PhD program. That same year, I got married to Winston James Thomas Jr. And that same year, I embarked on a creative writing journey for my self-care. And so what it entails is dedication, commitment, and discipline. So what I did was I scheduled time to do my readings, scheduled times to complete my projects. And there were also times that I did late night writing. So I worked full time the entire PhD journey. So I entered the process in 2013. I started to collect my data. Once I decided what I wanted to do in terms of research and who my participants would be, I began the research data collection in 2017. And my mother-in-law ended up getting very sick in 2018. And so I paused for a little bit and then resumed in 2019. I took a pause for a minute. And then I came back like I never left, girl. And
Cindy.
It took a lot of healing, prayers, co-creating healing circles. Then myself and Nancy Lewis, my business partner, we began our journey of Velocity Visions in 2017. And it was an entrepreneurial endeavor that at the time I was thinking, well, what am I doing? And I also knew that this was part of my healing process. And I also know that when I co-create spaces of transformation, I get to benefit from it too. So Velocity Visions actually helped me finish the process of the doctoral work, because that work fed into me. I was still working full time and enjoyed the work that I was doing full time, but also knew that where my gifts lied was in co-creating spaces of healing, transformation, and impact. And so it takes
Cindy.
a lot of writing, a lot of support. I definitely also hired people to help me, editors. I hired people to help me think through concepts, because I was also very clear that I wasn't going to do this for free. Like, tell people, oh, can I talk to you for 2 hours about my research? So there was a lot of money invested. So the money that I ended up making with Velocity Visions, I ended up pouring it right back into my doctoral work.
Cindy, if you can walk us through, what is your dissertation about?
Oh my goodness, actually, I did that for an hour today. Oh my God.
No, but I got like a microwave version.
Sure.
Don't get too technical.
No, thank you. And I'm actually going to post something about it, because what I realized that there is power in sharing your great work. So sometimes we create things and then we don't share it. But what ends up happening is that people then lose out on the gift that we have to give the world, right? And so those of you that have a business and you think to yourself, oh, I'm not a salesperson, right? The flip side of that is that you have a gift to give, and because you're not saying anything about it, people don't get to benefit from that gift. So thank you, Evelyn. So the gift that I have to give in regards to my doctoral research is that I examine the professional experiences of bilingual Latinx school social workers that work for the New York City Department of Education. So no one had done that research before. So it was an exploratory study. My research question was one research question, even though my committee members kept trying to have me add questions. And I kept saying, no, it's just one question. What is your role? What is your role? Because no one knows what your role is. And so as a result of asking that one question through, of course, I had to develop an interview protocol and a series of questions. The result of that was this amazing way of practicing social work in schools that's so transformative. I used a theoretical framework that I developed, which it
Hey, girl.
was 3 different parts of it. I know I'm like, now everyone's gonna log off because they're like, this is boring. No, I need to not say that, right? So
Don't say that.
basically, it
This
was
is important work, Cindy.
You're right. Thank you. So it was critical race theory, Latinx critical race theory, and testimonials. And my intention around using those 3 frameworks was to co-create a story around what is the work, identifying their areas of expertise, and then moving it into action. What can we
That's right.
create that will enact social justice action around the work of bilingual Latinx school social workers? So what happened is that I developed a theory called Entrenos Theory. So it's in Spanish intentionally because there are so many theories that we know that are in English. And guess what? Most of the United States population is about to be Latinx in a hot minute.
Yes, ma'am.
And so why not make it a Latinx Spanish speaking theory? And so my hope is that the research will contribute to the literature around social work in general, that it will contribute to the literature around education, and that we can examine how are we doing the work that we do and just disrupt and be active in disrupting systems of inequity and oppression. So yeah, so that's what.
Cindy, let me say this. You mentioned so many great points that those that are actually watching, hopefully this helps them, that you didn't do this by yourself.
Hells no.
You reached out to experts, you reached out to professionals, and you supported people who knew this work, right? A lot of times we employ people that may not understand our culture or have certain perspective, and you made it your business to employ, right? Because nothing's free. Let's be honest, our time is precious, but at least there was an opportunity for you to have people support you in your mission, in your goal. And that speaks volume because we cannot do this by ourselves. We speak about introducing things. You said, when I was doing my master's, I always wanted to do my master's, and I always wanted to do my PhD. We have to bring that language, yes, Dominican flag, we have to bring that language to our children, our niece, our nephews, godchildren. And I want to know this, Cindy. How did you pick your committee?
Oh, this is
how do you pick a committee?
So it's an interesting story. So first of all, when I got into the PhD program at the CUNY Graduate Center in Urban Education, my interview was with La Bandera. I love Scott. My interview was with Ofelia Garcia, who is a scholar who has done extensive work around translanguaging and how that work is so transformative with bilingual, emergent bilingual students and their families in New York. And so when I got into the program, the way that it works in my program is that one of the faculty has to decide to work with you right away. So when she interviewed me, and she was working with me right away. And so we had a really good working relationship. But truth be told, I'm one of those emerging people that asks for support. So there was a lot of the process where I was just like, I'm busy. I'm working full time. I ain't got time for that, right? And she actually advocated for me to consider leaving my job and going full time in my doctoral process. But I knew that my salary was very important to our family, and there was no way that I was going to do that. And I was also scared. I was scared of my intelligence, to be honest. I was scared of academia. I thrive in so many areas of my life, but in the area of academic writing and presence, I'm emerging in that area. And so what ended up happening was that she was about to retire. And I actually failed my first exam. So I want to share that with folks because some people, the year that I failed my first exam, it was the first year of my PhD program. I just got married that year. I miscarried that year. I had a lot of personal things going on that year. And instead of reaching out to my advisor and saying, I have a lot going on, can I get an extension? I never ever took an incomplete while I was in my doctorate program. There was something in my brain that said, if you take an incomplete, that's equal to failure.
You're not going to come back.
Right. But that's not the case. So I want to encourage people that if they are in graduate programs and find themselves in situations where they need support, ask for it because you will get it. And so I didn't ask for an extension. I remember the night before I submitted that first exam, I knew it was garbage. But I pressed send. And then she sent me an email and she was like, Cindy, we need to meet. And when we met, she was like, I don't understand. All of your professors talk about your brilliance in class, the papers that you've submitted. I'm trying to understand what's happening.
What happened?
And the truth is, I never dealt, number one, with my miscarriage. I never dealt with my father's death, which was so many years before that. And there were personal issues happening in my family at the time. And I didn't deal with those and was struggling with how do I communicate. She was a white Latinx woman from Cuba. I identify as Black Latinx. And the truth is that I haven't been very favored by the Latinx community in general. So the fact that she even wanted me was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And so I didn't know how to communicate that I needed support. So what ended up happening was she met with me. She went through each page by page and let me know where I needed to enhance the work. And eventually I was able to pass my first exam. And so she was already a committee member that was given. Then I took a qualitative class with a Black male professor, and I loved his whole vibe. I loved how he combined real life narratives with the qualitative research skills that we needed to learn. And he taught us. Cindy,
I'm sorry. I just want to say, it sounds like you're mentioning a lot of connection.
Yes.
And personalization, which was leading you into your work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's exactly what it was. And then the last member was recommended. Someone said, well, why don't you have Terry Epstein? And I was like, okay, I'll reach out to her. And it turned out that she was doing policy work. So my work interfaces individual work, but it's also macro related around leadership and policy. So she was a perfect fit. And then I went to a conference where I met a Black man that had done school social work research for his dissertation. And so I loved what he said in one of the meetings at the conference. And so I reached out to him, emailed him and said, hi, could we have a conversation? And he said, sure. We met. And then I said, this is the deal. I don't have a social worker on my committee. I go to an urban education school of education, and I really want someone that knows social work. Would you be interested? He asked me what my research was about. I told him, and he said yes. Little did I know that he eventually went on to be the dean of deans of social work. Like he's the dean, he's a director of all the deans of social work nationally. Amazing man. Met with me every single month for the last 2 years for at least 30 minutes to an hour on mentorship, talked about vulnerability, talked about presence. I go to social conferences all the time and I see him moving and shaking like in the shadow, like shadows. And I'm like, that's me, like wanting to impact junior faculty. That's how he rolls. And so that's how I chose my committee. It was on instinct and on connection and on being brave, because that was scary, just going to some random person and saying, hi, could we schedule a Skype call? Like, you don't even
Can I talk to you for a minute?
I'll talk to you for a minute. And we had just such so that's how I chose my committee. So eventually what ended up happening was Ophelia retired. So I asked Wesley to be my chair. So he became my chair. And then he suggested that I reach out to a Latinx woman. Hello, I'm talking about Latinx people, and I didn't have Latinx people on my committee. So
Isn't that something?
he suggested this faculty member, Rosa Rivera McCutcheon, who's phenomenal. I stalked her at Lehman College, stalked her, like emailed her every week until she finally scheduled an appointment to meet with me. And when she met with me, I was nervous, like when you're going on a first date. Nervous. And then when I met with her, I was like, oh my God, she's amazing. And I knew that she needed to be on my committee. And thankfully, I mean, she literally shifted the trajectory of my entire dissertation just on her knowledge, her expertise. And so that's how I chose my committee.
Now, Cindy, I'm curious. What is something that you can share that helped you not to give up? Because I'm sure you had those moments.
Oh,
but what is something that you would have in your frame of mind with the countless people you interact with that says, "Let's go, girl"?
well, first of all, I have to give homage to Sofia, Doctora Sofia Pertus. So Sofia
Bautista.
Bautista Pertus is our sister who started a doctoral Latinas Completing Doctoral Degrees Facebook group. And I remember the year that she started the group was the year that I started my PhD program. So she asked me to write a blog entry, because at that time she was blogging, and she didn't necessarily have the Facebook group yet. So she asked me to write a blog about my first year in the program. And so I'm actually going to go back to that blog and write an update, because I'm going to update and start blogging myself. But when she asked me to write that blog, I felt a sense of responsibility to my community as a bilingual Latinx. I felt a responsibility to my family. I felt a sense of responsibility to my children and to my husband. Whenever I was tired, I remember there was one point when I said to Winston, I'm not even sure why I'm doing this. Like, I'm okay. I got a good job. Like, I'm all right. He was like, if you don't get your ass out this bed and go to that desk and write that fucking chapter, you know. And so there were those days where I was like, ew, you so nasty. Like, what is that? He was like, no, you worked too hard for this. You're almost there. Keep going. So my husband was always there telling me to keep going. My mother-in-law, she got on my nerves sometimes. She'd be like, you didn't finish yet? You didn't finish yet? You didn't finish yet? And she used to get on my nerves with that. But it was like that little voice. And then my daughter, I would go to her room and be like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Let's go watch a show. And she would be like, Mom, and I actually put this in my acknowledgments. The folks that were at the dissertation defense, I'm going to actually share my acknowledgments to y'all, because everyone's mentioned. I mentioned my acknowledgments. It's about 8 pages, I think. And I mentioned every single soul that has influenced me and that has supported me in my journey. And also, I must say that I had a spiritual awakening in the process. I realized that my writing couldn't be done in the library at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Like most doctoral students are like, I'm going to spend the day in the library, and they get there at 10 a.m. Cindy would go to the library at 10 a.m. and Cindy would be on Facebook. Cindy would be bullshitting, because that's not my environment. But when one day, I don't remember where, I take a whole bunch of workshops. I do a lot of healing circles. And someone said, well, do you sage before you write? And I was like, no. They were like, try that. Try saging, try using Palo Santos, light a white candle and talk to your ancestors. And then I started to really delve into Gloria Anzandula's work, which she is a Chicana scholar who talks about writing as this therapeutic process and talks about this role that we play living in these two worlds. And guess what? I realized that my writing is late at night. I watched. So I never stopped having fun. I would go out, go to parties. Sophia would like text me and be like, "You don't need to go to that baby shower," and I would be like, "Thank you for your concern. Thank you for your concern, but I'm going to that baby shower." And she would get at me and she would be like, "Why are you going?" So I'm an extrovert, right? If you haven't noticed already, and I need people's energy to thrive. And Evelyn and I mean, we would go to places and spaces, right? And she would be like, "Oh my God, do you have schoolwork to do?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll do it when I get home." And what would happen is, and this has happened my whole doctoral journey, is that I would start at 10 o'clock at night and I would go through till like 5, 6 in the morning. Like, that's just how my brain works. And when I finally acknowledged that that's my process, I was able to work around it. So when I knew I was going to have a late night, then I would call out sick. Or I would take a personal day if I knew that those were the days that I was going to do it. And I had an amazing supervisor who supported my journey, and amazing friends that would check in. And so I knew that I needed to feed my body, mind, and spirit before I could get to the real deal. I'll never forget that moment when I started drinking cacao. It was introduced to me by my comadre, who's actually, today's her birthday, Dina Quiñones. Give her a shout out.
Happy birthday.
And she introduced me to cacao as a medicine. So the cacao is the derivative of chocolate, but it is, in its natural state, it's a spiritual medicine, and it enhances your body, mind, and spirit. And when she introduced me to cacao, I was like blown away, where I would drink the cacao and then all kinds of ideas would surface. And spirit would tell me who to connect with to support me in other ways of my doctoral journey. So I'm very clear that my doctorate is of the community. It's not just for me. It's like everyone that has engaged with me throughout these 7 years. That's your PhD too, boo.
Now, Cindy, when growing up, Mommy used to always talk about how we got our masters, right? And we would have friends over from college, and she would say, she didn't say much in English, but she's like, "You got your master?" you know. So, what do you think Mommy will start saying?
Well, you know what? I have something to share that's kind of sad, Evelyn. So I live with my mother, and I have been living here. It'll be 4 years. I believe it's been 4 years. And
Maybe 5.
our mother has Alzheimer's. Some people may not know this. And so her advancement of Alzheimer's has been quite swift. And so she didn't even understand what was happening today. I shared with her what was happening today. I remember that when she went to Sophia's dissertation defense, she sat down and actually wrote Sophia a letter while Sophia was defending. It was so heartwarming. But where our mother is right now is she's like a child again. Like, she couldn't really understand. I said, "Mommy, yo soy doctora." And you know what she said? She said, "So when do you start seeing patients?" And then I said, "No, I'm not that kind of doctora," right? And then it was tough because Naila went downstairs with the computer so that she could see the defense, but she couldn't really, understand. Like, at one point, my mom said, Naila said, "Mom, she just walked away." And I said, "Well, she didn't really understand English to that degree. Plus, I'm talking all these research-based terms or whatever." But we still get to experience joy with her. So what did I do? I love Anthony Santos. So we went downstairs and had a dance party. And then I shared with her, I said, "Mom, today yo soy doctora. Usted me tiene que decir doctora." And I had her do a video where she talked about her pride in my trajectory. And we danced to Anthony Santos for a while, and so it's interesting because it is sad because she doesn't really understand what's happening. She has 24-hour health aid care at this point. And I get to glean, pieces of her right now still. And so I'm excited that I get to be a part of that journey for her. But it's also sad because she doesn't really understand, you know?
So even though right now she's not understanding, the truth of the matter is, I'm sure that she would have been so proud if she had that level of understanding, because mommy dedicated so much to push into us education, even though she had her third grade level education in
Absolutely.
Dominican Republic.
Absolutely.
So anybody can do it, and you have to have the enthusiasm. And mommy had the enthusiasm.
She really,
And that speaks volumes in terms of education.
no,
She
she
didn't know
does.
how to help us. She didn't know how to help us, but she knew how to encourage.
Mm.
And the message would be to push people. If that is their dream, their joy, and support them and give them the connection that's needed to get to where they need to be.
You better preach, Evelyn Bautista-Miller.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm.
So to all your peoples that's been sending you so many notes in Instagram, what you want to say to them?
Oh my God. First of all, this PhD is our PhD. Best believe that I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to write books. You're going to see my name. I'm so encouraged by the support that I've been receiving. I know for a fact that this is God's work. There's nothing that I do that I know is not of God. And I also know that he's like, girl, get ready. Because we about to get into this, right? And so, you know, I welcome if any of y'all have questions to put it in my question box. Before we head out, I welcome any questions. Put it in the question box or in the chat. But I'm very committed to my community and advancing us forward.
Sophia, you definitely have really supported not only Cindy, not only others, but I mean, the influence and information you have provided all of these people to pursue their PhD or even think about it is so powerful. And I can only imagine what great things you're going to continue doing, Cindy,
Oh, thank
as
you.
you continue your work, because it just began.
Oh, thank you. So thank you. And then Sophia, I will never forget the day where Sophia said, well, where are you in the journey? She was like, every time I'm on Facebook or Instagram, your butt is somewhere doing something. Let's get this finished. And I will never forget. She was like, I want you to come to my house, come for the day, and I'm going to support you. And that's exactly what she did. We spent about
Very
6
nice.
hours where she helped me organize my data, organize sort of my next steps. And so I'm forever grateful for Sophia. So my Latina magic, that's Priscilla. Doctora Priscilla says, love you, mama. So proud of you. Priscilla, that is not a question, boo. Give us a question. I love you, Priscilla. Priscilla sent me, if I told you the amount of texts that I got this morning and yesterday,
Wow.
prayers, accolades, people sent me songs. I mean, I woke up very early. I did a Kundalini yoga with my comadre whose birthday is today, Dina. And then I do my rituals, my prayers, my meditation. And I felt my father's spirit so heavy. And my uncle, like they were in my room, like right next to me. It was just crazy. And then it was Priscilla who sent me a text. She was like, your father's in the room. And I was like, oh my God, I can feel it. So Sophia asked, Doctora Sofia Pertus asks, what is the next books you're going to read? Oh, first of all, I have so many things that I've been putting on the side that I want to read. But the very next thing that I'm looking to read has nothing to do with my doctoral work. So I'm looking to create a yoga class based on racial, trauma and healing. And so I'm interested in, there's a book that I purchased. I don't remember the author's name. I'm so sorry. But it's about restorative yoga and how restorative yoga is a tool that could be used to support racial trauma. And so I want to enhance my yoga journey. And so that's one of the areas that I'm looking to focus on. And so what I'm looking to do is to do a community class that's donation based once a week, maybe. I'll start with once a week. And so that's what I'm looking to do. I want to read that book, get a little bit more information about restorative yoga, and then create a community class. So if you aren't already signed up to Velocity Vision's listserv mailing list, my suggestion is if you go to my bio, you'll see that I'm co-founder of Velocity Visions. Go to the Velocity Visions website that's on the link and sign up for our mailing list, because I'm going to start some donation-based courses, yoga classes, to support our healing during this crazy time. Oh,
thank you, Cindy.
Oh, I love all the messages. Thank you for all of your support. Wow. Amazing. Thank you. Any lasting questions, Miss Evelyn Bautista-Miller?
So, as far as your nuclear family, right? We're going through this whole pandemic, and it's hard to see all the extra nieces and nephews and everybody. What are you going to send to yourself in these few days as you unwind?
Oh my God, that is such an amazing question, Evelyn. So go eat your lobster. You heard my husband. He said the food is ready, so I was about to be like,
oh,
yo.
Okay.
So what I'm looking to create is a time to rest. It's been a long journey, and I need to rest because I know what
and you made it.
What God got for me. I need to be ready for it. I know it. This is just the beginning. So I'm looking to rest. I'm starting a new job in a couple of weeks as an assistant professor at John Jay College. I'm really excited about it. Sophia put it as a comment. Go eat your lobster. I'm going to put it up so I can remind myself. So I'm excited about pouring into undergraduate students at a Latino organization, what's it called? A Latino serving organization, as John Jay is. And I know that this is just the beginning. I'm taking a leap of faith. I'm leaving Columbia School of Social Work. I haven't sort of formally made the announcement on social media, but I am now. So actually Thursday is my last day at Columbia School of Social Work. And I'm so excited that I get to work with the courses that I'm teaching. I'm over the moon excited. I'm also interested in going back to my creative writing. You know, my goal is to finish my first novel. That is an homage to our parents. It's an homage to the trajectory of young women from the Boogie Down Bronx, right? And how we get to evolve. And I'm also interested in just being present for my family. It's been a tough couple of years. So I'm looking to just like engage, connect. When we could travel, I'm going to be on the next beach. I just told Gloria that we're going to Panama. We're going to Cologne. So I could get to know her folks at Cologne. Right, Gloria? She said,
I hear her. So, Cindy, now that you made the announcement about you leaving Columbia University, it's important for those that don't know or don't remember how you really sparked the fire by starting the social work conference. So I only know when you get to John Jay, it's going to be fantastic. And you have such a village. And we're here to support you.
Thank you. Well, you
and
know,
we love you.
Evelyn, you have been one of my, and I shared this before in a different context, but Evelyn attended almost every single yoga class that I taught when I was doing my yoga training. And also my conferences every year. So this year, actually, the conference is March 19th, and 7 is a number of completion. And I remember that last year when we were doing the conference coordinating, I said to my co-coordinator, I said, I have a feeling this is the last year of the conference. I just have this feeling. It was in the fall of 2019. And then COVID happened. And so we couldn't have the in-person conference. And so when I reached out to her over the summer, I said, it's definitely important for us to have this conference this year. I said, let's move it up. I think it's important that folks have tools while they're still doing the work, because we were doing the conference in June. So I set up all the speakers. There was a little bit of advocating that needs to be had to move it forth. But I'm so proud of it, and that I get to still facilitate the conference this year. I get to still moderate it as a like Dr. Cindy Bautista-Thomas. It's like that's the legacy that I get to leave, right? So
What an
for all of
honor.
you, there's a legacy to be left no matter what role you play in life. You get to decide where you leave that legacy. Is it your job? Is it your family? Is it a personal volunteer endeavor? Right? Like we get to make those shifts and changes. So thank you for talking about that, because that school social work conference was my baby. And I remember when I told my supervisor I was leaving Columbia, I said, oh my goodness, I said, is there any way, I don't teach on Fridays, I'd love to moderate the conference. I said, would that be okay? I even said I'll do it for free, even though I hope they pay me a little something, you know what I'm saying? But I said, you know what? It's all good, because God done blessed me again and again
and again.
So it's all good if they don't pay me. But yeah, so we get to be a part of that. And I'm so thrilled with what my life is going to bring me next. And with that, I need to have that lobster because it's...
Yes, before Winston kills me. So thank you for allowing your people to enter your space and just be about it and keep doing the work.
Evelyn, I love you so much. Evelyn Bautista-Miller, of New York is her nonprofit organization. She has a fundraiser coming up. If you are able to contribute even $5 to
Thank you, Cindy.
Where can they contribute, Evelyn?
On our website, www.tenderstepsofny.org. It's going to be fantastic.
Awesome.
So thank you, Cindy.
No, first of all, thank you so much. Join Evelyn Bautista-Thomas's mailing list. I mean,
you said Evelyn.
Miller, sorry. No, by the way, mommy makes fun of you and me. She always says, why you and Evelyn got to be different? Because my other sisters took their husbands' names. But Evelyn and I maintained our Bautista and hyphens and put our husband's name. But anyway. So anyway,
it's homage to Papi.
Join us tomorrow where we will be talking with Doctora Cristina Melendez. I'm so excited about that conversation. I wanted to come on today and say thank you to this beautiful community. Thank you, Evelyn, to you and all the amazing work that you're doing in the world. And I feel amazing.
Oh, I hear Winston in the background. Cindy, you better go eat that last.
All right, it's time to get off. Goodbye.
Yes. Goodbye.
Tomorrow it's at 7 o'clock. Wait, go look at the stories. I think it's at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'll post the story.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
She's doing
Bye-bye.
She's doing a live.